I'm Adam Puttycombe with Sports Business Canada, and we're live on location at Mile 1 Center, home of the 2017 Brier, and today we're excited to be joined by Eugene Trickett, who is the Vice Chair of Facilities for the 2017 Brier and also the Chair of the Bid Committee. Thanks for joining us today, Eugene.
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be here to talk about Tim Hortons Brier this year.
It's been an exciting week so far. Brier has solidified his spot in the final tomorrow. Tell us a little bit about your background and how you got involved with this year's Brier.
My first exposure to curling actually came at the 1972 Brier at the old Memorial Stadium here in St. John's. I fell in love with the game then. My mother curled and took me up to kids curling at the old St. John's Curling Club at that time. And then I went through that program. I was lucky enough to meet Mark Noseworthy, and Mark and I were fortunate enough to go on to a Canada Winter Games and playing 3 Briers together, where we were fortunate enough to win a silver medal actually at the Canada Winter Games and a bronze in '87 at the Brier in Edmonton. I've also became a member of the Newfoundland Labrador Curling Association and went to a couple of Canadian Curling Association meetings, and then I actually chaired the committee to get the 2005 Scott here. For that, I had to resign my post because I was coaching Heather Strong at that time. That event went really well here in St. John's also.
So, Eugene, you mentioned 2005 is the Scotties, 2017 is the Brier. Looking back at the last 2 decades, Mile 1 is one of the smallest venues to host the Brier, but so far this week, the way attendance has been trending, it's been very successful. But, you know, with anything comes challenges. Just tell us a little bit about some of the challenges that you've run into this week, just with an event of this size.
I think that the biggest challenge that we faced here was we don't have a big Brier patch as other centers, and knowing that we were going to be very, very well attended here at the event, and fans are used to going to the Brier patch, which is such a key part of Brier life, and the building only holds less than half the people, the facility only holds less than half the people here in the arena. So it's been a bit of a challenge getting everyone in over there. The pro side to that is just outside and down the street we have several great establishments that people were able to go to, whether it was to eat or socialize, so we considered that our overflow for the Brier. So that's, I think, the biggest challenge that we had. We didn't want to go off-site with it. We wanted it right on site here at St. John's.
Yeah, Eugene, it's been very convenient for anybody who hasn't been to St. John's. Mile 1 is attached by pedway to the new St. John's Convention Center, right on the doorstep of George Street, so very convenient. One of the big things about the Brier is obviously from City of St. John's perspective and from an organizing standpoint is the economic impact. And it's been very clear this week, but is there anything the city is doing or steps St. John's is doing to measure that?
Well, we are actually going to be doing a study after to see what the effect really is on a Brier of this size, being 5,000 to 6,000 seats and visitors. In the bigger Briers, 15 plus million, maybe up to 20 million in bigger centers. Here in St. John's, I'm thinking it's at least 10 million, and it might be 12 or 15 million dollars. Curling Canada and the city through Destination St. John's are going to do a steam analysis when the event is over here to really try to get a handle on what it's meant here for us. I mean, this is a true downtown Brier here. Everyone is downtown. All the businesses have really benefited from this. I strolled through downtown the other day when it was nice and sunny out. All the gift shops were blocked. The higher end restaurants were full of reservations that night, and then all the pub grub places that people go to, there was a lineup to get fish and chips or whatever they chose to eat here for that. The entrepreneurs here, I think, are very pleased with the investment the city made.
Absolutely, and I think one of the unique things about the Brier is it's a 10-day event versus other events being a day or two. So it's definitely from an economic spin-off perspective, it's a long period of time. So Eugene, you were the chair of the bid committee that brought the Brier to St. John's. Tell us a little bit about that process, and also any cities that are looking at hosting the Brier in the future. Any tips you would give them?
It started when Curling Canada announced they were going to Kamloops, and it was actually Brad who then tweeted, well, if they can go to Kamloops, they can come to St. John's. That's when it all started, and he met with the city back then, and several months in, they formed a committee, but several months in, they gave me a call and asked me if I would help work with Curling Canada to try to bring it here. So we put a formal bid committee together, and I said I will take the responsibility for working with Curling Canada on what their requirements are from here. The city working on profiling the city for the event here, and we took on a unique at that time ticket deposit campaign to see if we could get people to commit to buy tickets for the event here. We sold 2,187 deposits, and we converted almost 1,800 of those into full event passes. So the day that Curling Canada announced it here, we had 1/3 of the building sold out already for that. Very important for our bid, and we assured them that we would be full here, and obviously having a championship team helps, but I personally think we would have had a very strong attendance. Even without that, we would have had a very strong attendance. That just raises the bar here at all levels and the excitement for it. For other cities going forward, I think the key here is that the city took it upon themselves to work with Curling Canada, the media partner TSN, to put together a good, strong promotion of the city for them. If you watch the broadcast, the lead-in shots are great around the city, and we provided them with a lot of information on that, and made some investment. The city made some investment itself in marketing, social media marketing, and traditional marketing to profile with TSN, with Curling Canada on that. And I think that it raised the expectation of coming here for people in terms of enjoying St. John's life. So really this became a partnership between us, Curling Canada, and now their media partner TSN to really promote this Brier.
It's a good point, Eugene. And one of the things we keep hearing throughout the week is that a lot of people were waiting for a Newfoundland Brier, and they vowed that if it ever came to St. John's, they would come, and it seems to be the case this week.
That's absolutely happened. I think we've got 2,000 people here from away at various points, plus more people from across the island. People have come here. They told me they're coming back to Newfoundland in the summer to get out to the rest of the island. We've had a number of them had some family connections here, and this was they used this as a catalyst to bring them back to St. John's. But there's other people said as soon as the Brier in St. John's was announced, we're going to St. John's for that, and we really saw that realized here this week.
And I think Eugene, looking back at the bid, Sault Ste. Marie was going against St. John's for the 2017 Brier. Regina is recently announced for 2018. Victoria back in 2014. I think the success of this year's Brier definitely opens the door for smaller locations in the future to host the Brier.
And I think that's the model that you're going to see CCA adapt. You'll probably see a blend of bigger center Briers still, but certainly not every third year, and then places like maybe 10,000 seat stadiums. But I think they're going to open the door to smaller community Briers. Certainly if they're downtown, it helps with the economic impact for that, and I think you're going to see a mix of all those groups as this goes forward in future.
On a final note, Eugene, there's been a lot of volunteers noticeably throughout the week. Tell us a little bit about that process, and has there, I don't think there's been any issues, but how'd you go about recruiting so many volunteers?
We started last June with the volunteers, and I think day one we had 200 of the 500 that we need, and a lot of those are in areas like timing and stats that people have a very specialized area for it. The bartending services is always the hardest to fill because it's late night, and of course one of the challenges we had here with filling that was because we have an 8 o'clock start time. It makes for a late night in the patch, but that's good. But we had 2 pushes. The community's been very good in helping us promote the volunteers, recruiting here. We ended up with 540 volunteers. Some of them are doing, I don't know them, some of them, they're doing jobs that I didn't know existed here. At this event, I see someone bringing up boxes from the basement and setting something up, and I wonder, what are they doing? I have no idea. But every one of them, the enthusiasm of the volunteers here is just fantastic for this event, and I wish I could offer them a game ticket that we were able to do for the final game for the Scott. Unfortunately, we don't have that luxury here, but I think the volunteers understand that, and many of them bought their own tickets.
That's great to hear, Eugene, and I just want to dig in a little bit further because I know you were part of the Scotties in 2005. What's the biggest difference you've seen between the two events?
having gone to a number of Scots, and when we had it here in St. John's, people who go to the Scott Tournament of Hearts are curling fans mostly. A lot of them tied to the curlers, but some of them go for the Scott. They enjoy the Scott. I think the difference with the Brier is there are people come here to mix the curling and the social life more. They go to a number of Briers, and I think it just broadens the perspective of why they're here. They're looking for the entertainment, and we did. There have been people over there. I'm not sure they know where their seats are in the stadium here, and they have seats over here. So, and we've experienced some of the other sides of the Brier. I haven't been to a Brier now in a number of years, but I took in a few of the other side activities here, and there was 100 people, 7 o'clock in the morning at some of these social events here for the Brier. So I think that just adds the Brier to another type of spectator or fan that comes to the Brier versus the Scott.
Absolutely. I think you mentioned before, just from an economic spin-off perspective, that adds another layer that the Scotties doesn't necessarily have.
Absolutely, absolutely. It really brings it up a higher level again.
So Eugene, it's been an exciting week here in St. John's, and the best is yet to come as Gouja will play an undetermined opponent tomorrow in the final. It should be a packed house once again here at Mile 1, and we're excited for it. I just want to thank you for your time today, and best of luck the rest of the weekend.
Thank you very much. It's been a pleasure, and I can't imagine the energy that's going to be here tomorrow night. But we're going to be full here today for these two playoff games, even though Newfoundland and Labrador is not playing today. So we're in for an exciting weekend here, right through, including the bronze medal will be block 2. I'm sure of it here. Looking forward to it.
Absolutely.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Eugene.
Thank you very much. It was a pleasure.